For 100 years, the Grand Ole Opry has been more than a stage. It's been a church, a proving ground, and the undisputed heart of country music. From the crackle of WSM radio in 1925 to a global broadcast reaching millions, its story is written in timeless songs and legendary performances. We know the names by heart: Hank Williams, Patsy Cline, Johnny Cash, Loretta Lynn. Their voices echo in the rafters, their stories polished into untouchable folklore. We see the rhinestones, hear the steel guitars, and believe in the magic of the circle, but behind the velvet curtain and the sequined smiles lies a different story. A story of bitter rivalries, secret blacklists, and careers made or broken in the shadows. A place where tradition was often a word used to keep people in their place, especially women. For decades, these stories were whispered, denied, or buried completely. But one woman saw it all. One woman who has stepped into that circle more than anyone else in history. After more than 5,300 shows, a Grammy Award, and a lifetime of breaking rules, the Queen of the Grand Ole Opry is finally sharing her unfiltered truth. People only know the stories they were allowed to hear. After nearly 60 years as a member, Jeannie Seely thinks it's time they heard the rest, before she was Miss Country Soul, and long before she became the most enduring female presence in Opry history. Marilyn Jean Seely was just a girl from Townville, Pennsylvania, population 300. Born on July 6, 1940, her world was one of dirt roads and hard work, the youngest of 4 kids in a 2-story farmhouse. Her father, Leo, was a farmer and steel mill worker who played the banjo and called square dances on the weekends. Her mother, Irene, would sing with her daughter every Saturday morning while they baked bread together. Music wasn't a career choice, it was just the rhythm of life. It seemed like everybody back in the country played guitars and fiddles, Jeannie recalls, and when we got together there was always pickin' and singin'. While her friends were listening to pop hits, Jeannie was drawn to the lonesome sound of Nashville. She was barely tall enough to reach the dial on the family's big Philco console radio, but she'd carefully tune it to the faint, crackling signal of WSM 650. The Grand Ole Opry wasn't just a radio show, it was a distant, magical world. By age 11, she was already singing on a local Saturday morning radio show, standing on a stack of wooden Coca-Cola crates just to reach the microphone, but her path to the Opry wasn't a straight shot south. It actually took a detour west. After high school, she took a practical job in banking and moved to California. It was a responsible choice, but the pull of music was relentless. She started writing songs, her soulful voice and sharp-witted lyrics catching the attention of other artists. Her work was getting recorded, but she knew that to truly make her mark, she had to go to the source. She had to go to Nashville. Encouraged by friends like Dottie West, Seely made the move in 1965. Nashville in the mid-60s was a town of giants. Chet Atkins, Owen Bradley, and the legendary A-Team session musicians were crafting the polished, string-laden Nashville sound. Female artists were expected to fit a certain mold, the sweet, demure country sweetheart in a gingham dress. Jeannie Seely, with her fiery spirit and soulful delivery, didn't fit that mold, and had no intention of trying. Her talent was too big to ignore. A songwriter named Hank Cochran recognized her unique voice and became her champion, bringing her the song that would change everything, "Don't Touch Me." The song was a raw, emotional plea from a woman at a crossroads, and Seely's performance was a masterclass in vocal control and emotional depth. Vulnerable yet powerful, it resonated deeply with audiences. Released in 1966, the song was a massive hit, climbing the country charts and earning her a Grammy Award for Best Female Country Vocal Performance. That Grammy was her ticket to the big time. It put her on the national stage and opened the one door she'd dreamed of since she was a girl fiddling with that radio dial, the Grand Ole Opry. She made her debut on May 28, 1966. Reflecting on that night, she said, "I remember feeling every emotion you've ever known, from sheer terror to extreme excitement. In a moment that perfectly captured her respect for the institution, the legendary Ernest Tubb gave her a piece of advice that would stick with her forever. "Miss Jeannie, you're going to be fine on the Opry. Just remember, it's not your show. It's not about you. You're part of something bigger." On September 16, 1967, that dream was fully realized when she was officially inducted as a member of the Grand Ole Opry. Her parents flew in from Pennsylvania for what she would remember as a very emotional night. As she stood in the famed circle, the weight of the moment hit her. "I started crying," she recalled, "and then I encored, and that was even worse." She had made it. She was part of the family. But what she would soon discover was that, like any family, the Opry had its secrets, its unspoken hierarchies, and its own special kind of heartbreak. The institution she loved would become the very thing she would have to fight for the rest of her career. To the outside world, becoming an Opry member was the pinnacle of success, a lifetime appointment to the pantheon of country music gods. But once you were inside, past the cheering crowds, a new reality set in. The Opry of the 60s and 70s was governed by a set of unwritten rules, a rigid code of conduct enforced by tradition, and a quiet, ever-present pressure to conform. And the women? They felt that pressure most. The calico curtain, as Jeannie would later call it, was a very real barrier. Female artists were expected to be gracious, polite, and above all, grateful for their spot. They were the sweethearts, sisters, and daughters of the Opry family, but rarely the ones in charge. Their image was carefully managed, right down to the long, modest dresses, often in gingham or calico prints, that reinforced a wholesome image the Opry's management felt was appropriate. Jeannie Seely, fresh off a Grammy win and fizzing with a modern, independent spirit, was never one for calico. She was a woman of her time, and the times were changing. Fashion was exploding, and hemlines were rising. For Jeannie, wearing a miniskirt wasn't a political statement, it was just what a normal American girl her age was wearing. But on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry? It was an act of rebellion. The night she first stepped into the circle wearing a stylish, short dress, a stir went through the backstage area. It was a direct challenge to the established order. "I really didn't think anything of it at the time," she would later laugh, "but it did cause quite a stir." The Opry manager promptly called her into his office. The message was clear. This was not how a female Opry member should present herself. But Jeannie didn't back down. She stood her ground, and in doing so, she tore a hole in that calico curtain. It was a small act of defiance with enormous consequences, paving the way for every woman who came after her, from Dolly Parton and Tanya Tucker to today's stars, to have control over her own image. This wasn't just about fashion, it was a window into the Opry's deep-seated power dynamics. The men ran the show, literally. They were the hosts, the announcers, the managers, and the gatekeepers. Stage time was a precious currency, doled out based on relationships and a willingness to play by the rules. Getting a prime spot could make a career. Being relegated to an early slot was a clear signal of your place in the pecking order. Jeannie quickly learned that navigating this world required a sharp mind and a strong will. She saw how artists curried favor with the powerful figures backstage and watched as those who fell out of favor suddenly found their opportunities dry up. She was a keen observer, noting who was given the spotlight and who was subtly pushed to the margins. She saw the immense talent and the deep frustration of her female peers, many of whom were just as gifted as the male headliners but were never given the same chances to shine. Her outspoken nature set her apart. While others might have been intimidated into silence, Jeannie dug in her heels. She'd earned her place with a Grammy-winning hit and an undeniable voice. She wasn't just a guest, she was a member, and she believed she had a right to help shape the Opry's future. She saw the hypocrisy in an institution that celebrated the rebellious spirit of its male outlaws, while demanding quiet conformity from its women. Beneath the warm stage lights, Jeannie was learning to navigate a ruthless political landscape, not by playing the game, but by bravely changing the rules. If the miniskirt was Jeannie Seely's opening shot, her next decades at the Opry were a masterclass in navigating a more insidious battlefield, the backstage culture of rivalries and retribution. This wasn't open warfare. It was a cold war fought in whispers, side glances, and closed-door meetings, where a career could be subtly sabotaged without a single shot fired. Rivalries were a constant undercurrent. With a limited number of spots and a surplus of talent, competition was fierce. It wasn't just about who had the biggest hit, it was about who had the ear of the Opry manager, who got the best dressing room, or who was chosen to close a segment, the most prestigious slot of all. Celie saw friendships strain under the weight of professional jealousy and watched artists undermine one another to gain an edge. For the women of the Opry, this competition was often magnified. They were pitted against each other for a much smaller piece of the pie. This dynamic was quietly encouraged by the male-dominated management, as it kept the women divided and less likely to band together to demand systemic change. Celie, who valued camaraderie, found this part of Opry life disheartening and tried to build alliances, but the competitive pressure was a powerful force. Even more troubling were the secret blacklists. This wasn't a formal list in a locked drawer, it was something far more damaging. An artist could find themselves on this unspoken list for any number of reasons: being labeled difficult for speaking their mind, having a falling out with a powerful figure at WSM, or making music deemed not country enough by the gatekeepers. Once an artist was on the list, their decline was slow and subtle. Appearances became less frequent. Time slots became less desirable. Eventually, they would just fade away, leaving the audience to wonder what happened to them. It was a quiet, clinical process of erasure. Celie has spoken candidly about this hidden power structure. She saw talented artists, especially women, pushed out for reasons that had nothing to do with their ability to entertain. It was a stark lesson in the difference between the Opry as a beloved institution and the Opry as a business. This is the painful truth behind one of her most revealing statements: "I was loyal to the Opry. But the Opry wasn't always loyal to us." It's the voice of a woman who gave her life to an institution, performing through floods and snowstorms, who championed its traditions but also saw its dark side. Her loyalty was to the idea of the Opry, the family of artists, the connection with fans, the history in the circle. But she felt betrayed by the political machinations that treated artists not as family, but as disposable assets. The emotional toll was immense. It meant watching friends lose their foothold, powerless to stop it. It meant navigating a world where authenticity was preached from the stage but punished in the hallways. Yet, through it all, her commitment never wavered. Her philosophy was clear: if there's something wrong, don't leave it, stay there and help fix it. This became her quiet mission. She couldn't burn the system down, but she could work from within to create change, channeling her frustration into a fierce determination to mentor the next generation and advocate for fairness. Of all the unwritten rules at the Grand Ole Opry, one of the most steadfast was about who could host. For decades, the role of segment host, the person who introduced artists and guided the live radio broadcast, was reserved exclusively for men. It was a position of authority. Men like Roy Acuff and Ernest Tubb were the voices of the Opry. Women, no matter how famous, were there to be introduced, not to do the introducing. It wasn't just policy, it was tradition. Jeannie Celie saw it for what it was: discrimination. And she decided to challenge it. Her campaign wasn't a loud protest but a quiet, relentless battle waged over years. With every new manager, she would make her case, politely but firmly pointing out the inequity. Why couldn't a woman, an Opry member in good standing, be trusted to host a 30-minute segment? The answer was always the same tired excuse: well, that's just the way we've always done it. The breakthrough didn't come from a new policy. It came from a snowstorm. On a cold January night in 1985, Nashville was crippled by ice and snow. The scheduled host, Del Reeves, was stranded. Backstage, there was quiet panic. The show, which had famously never missed a broadcast, had to go on. The staff realized Jeannie Seely was one of the few members who had made it to the venue. With few options left, they turned to her. It was a last-minute, emergency decision. They needed a host, and she was there. She seized the moment. Walking out on that stage with the poise of someone who had been preparing for this her entire life, she was warm, witty, and utterly in command. She didn't just host the show, she owned it. She proved, in one impromptu performance, that the tradition was nothing more than an outdated prejudice. That night should have been a turning point, but the resistance remained. She had to keep pushing, but now she had undeniable proof. She had done the job, and she had done it well. Finally, the management relented and gave her a proper invitation to host. Jeannie understood the weight of this victory. She knew she was being watched. A single mistake could be used to shut the door on women forever. I was aware that if I didn't do that, that door would be closed, not only to me, but all the other young women coming up, she later said. So she prepared meticulously. I did my homework every week, she recalled. Her hard work paid off. She became a regular and beloved host, shattering one of the highest glass ceilings at the Opry. Because of her, the next generation of female artists could walk onto that stage and host a segment without a second thought. The battle had been won. As she reflected, it was just simply the right thing to do. This fight cemented her legacy not just as a great performer, but as a true trailblazer, proving one person with talent, persistence, and a sense of what's right could change an institution. As the Grand Ole Opry approaches its 100th anniversary in November 2025, it's taking a long look in the mirror, honoring the icons who built its legacy. And standing at the center of that history is Jeannie Seely. Now 85 years old, she's not a relic of a bygone era, she is a living, breathing testament to the Opry's evolution. Having graced its stage more than 5,300 times, she is the undisputed matriarch of the Opry family, a record-breaker whose every performance adds to the history books. The state of Tennessee even dedicated the Jeannie Seely Interchange at the entrance to the Opry, a permanent tribute to the woman who has welcomed so many to her musical home. Her journey from the young girl in the controversial miniskirt to the revered elder stateswoman is the story of the Opry itself. A constant negotiation between a fiercely protected past and an inevitable future. She arrived a rule breaker and stayed to become a rule maker. Her legacy is written not just in her Grammy-winning songs, but in the doors she kicked open. Every woman who hosts a segment or chooses her own stage attire owes a debt to Jeannie's quiet rebellion. She has become the Opry's greatest champion and its most necessary critic. Her loyalty was never blind. It was a tough love that demanded the institution live up to its own ideals. Guided by the principle that if something is broken, you stay and help fix it, she has made it her mission to be a bridge between generations. She frequently introduces new artists, ensuring the circle remains unbroken. As she once said, "Somebody held it together for years so I could be here. I need to do that for others." Her unfiltered stories of rivalries and blacklists aren't told from bitterness, but from a belief in the truth. They are a crucial corrective to the polished, official history, reminding us that progress is earned through struggle. She is the keeper of secrets, not to perpetuate old grievances, but to ensure the lessons of the past aren't forgotten. Today, as she looks toward the Opry centennial, her favorite memory of the Opry is always, coming up tonight, a beautiful expression of her undiminished passion. Jeannie Seely's story is a powerful reminder that a single, true voice can change the entire song. She is more than Miss Country Soul, she is the soul of the Opry itself, wise, resilient, and forever singing her truth. Jeannie Seely's journey from rebel to revered icon is a testament to her strength. Her willingness to speak out changed country music forever. What part of Jeannie's story shocked you the most? The miniskirt rebellion, the secret blacklists, or her long fight to become a host? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe these hidden histories deserve to be told, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more.